Hi, this is Melissa with A Crave Drawing with Melissa, and today I'm going to show you a second part to coloring your own flowered ribbon. Now, this is what it looked like from the last one. I wanted to make sure I let it dry, and you can see how some of it got really dark. Obviously that's because I put more of the ink in there, or ink on there, alcohol ink, and some of it got lighter, some of it didn't have any at all, and some of it got just a little bit saturated, but this is obviously very saturated. But you can see there's still spots in there that did not get a little bit of ink. So what I wanted to show you is there's a few different things you can do. This right here was actually the secondary one that I did just from the remnants of adding a little bit more alcohol as well as mixing it up and using it on the white ribbon. This is the beautiful ribbon that I got. I think it's phenomenal. I am just stunned with the way that it looked, or that it came out, and you can even see how it's a little bit variegated right there. I just love how it came out. It's pretty cool. So with that, I'm going to keep this one. This I'm not doing anything to, so I really love it, and I think it really brings out, I don't know if you can see the sparkles that are in there. They have a little bit of glitter on the top. That's how the actual ribbon was, and I just love the way that looks, but I'm going to keep that because I'm going to use that for a project. But what I do want to show you, there's a few other things that you can do. So what I used is my Chameleon alcohol ink refill, and then I also am using, I'm going to be showing you how to use the pen, and you can use this with any alcohol pen that you have. It's important that it's alcohol because it dries faster, and it also will stick onto the different materials that we use for our ribbon. We also have here a little mini mister, but what I put in here was alcohol. You don't have to use the blending solution or the colorless blender, etc., to use with this. As far as for this project, I don't recommend using anything other than the colorless blending stuff, material, liquid, whatever you want to call it. Colorless blending solution was actually the word I was looking for, but I was trying to fill it in and it didn't quite work out, did it? No, not so much. Anyway, what I use for these type of projects, I use very generic alcohol, that's it. Isopropyl alcohol. You can use 90%, you can use 70%. Truthfully, I've used both, and I don't know the difference between the 70% and the 90%, otherwise probably concentration, and it seems to work fine for me either way. So that's what I will tell you. I have not done a comparison, so there may be a difference, and if there is, by all means comment, but I haven't seen anything different. Maybe we will today. So what I wanted to show you is a few things. One, I want to show you what happens when you spray this with some alcohol ink. So I'm going to do that first so we can see it at the end of the video so you can see the difference. And two, I want to show you the difference between just taking some of the ink and dipping it on the top and what that looks like versus taking a pen and coloring it yourself. So those are the three things that I want to show you. I was going to show you that in the last video, and I actually ran out of time and thought it'd be better if I showed you this part with this. So that's what we're doing. So in the meantime, I'm going to put this stuff aside. We don't need the pen. And you could actually use a colorless blender on this too, if you wanted to show how that works. Now make sure that your work surface is cleanable. This is a mat that's supposed to be, you know, great and wipe off. It clearly didn't quite work, but it's okay. Doesn't matter. This work surface that I have right now I can just use directly, but it's easier for you to see the difference when I use it this way. So this, like I said, has alcohol ink in it, and I apologize for my nails, but I've been using alcohol ink, so my nails have been a mess, so I didn't even bother really getting them done because they're a mess. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is just take this alcohol that's in this little mini mister, and I'm going to spray, and I want to show you the difference on how cool it looks. So this is going to really show you the most. This will probably be light, but this is really going to show you the most. So I'm going to show you that first. And you'll see how it starts to lighten. And it may not be obvious at first, but you shall see it later. So I am going to go ahead and leave that and scoot it over, just like that. That's all. So you can see, actually I'll show you a little bit right now. You can see how the beads are getting lighter. You can see that. See how it's getting a little bit lighter, and it's going to show a little bit of variation between there, or variegation, or irrigation, or humiliation. I don't know. Some Asian word. The A-T-I-O-N, that's what we're talking about right now. Okay. So you see how it's just getting a little bit lighter? See how it's just pulling that right off, that color. I just think that's really cool. So that's just a little something that can show you what happens. So I'm going to spray it just a little bit more in the darker part, just so we can really get some significant difference. And I'm going to spray on this side too to make sure that I get just not one side but the other side as well. Okay, so we're going to leave that. In the meantime, we are going to take just a little piece of this lovely little ribbon right here. I'm going to cut some off as soon as I can figure out where I put my scissors. Oh, here they are. So we're just going to take off this piece right here. It's just got 2 flowers on it, and I think this will be plenty enough to show you the difference between if you use a marker, and I would suggest using a brush tip for this. You can use the regular nib if you'd like, but I think using a brush tip kind of gives you a little bit more flow, and I think it makes it look a little bit more natural, if you will. So you could just simply just start coloring the edges if you like. I just don't like the way this looks. I don't think it looks as natural. To me, you always have to add a little bit of like alcohol ink or something. And you'd probably be a little bit more specific if you had a certain look that you wanted to. But I think when you use a marker like this, I don't really prefer it because I don't think it gives good flow, and it like doesn't give like the watercolor look like this does. That's just my opinion. Everybody's opinion is different, and of course, everyone is correct because art is everybody's personal choice, and I think it looks great regardless. So besides this little piece of fuzz that wants to stay with me here, throw that out. So you could use, and you can truthfully, you could use like a watercolor brush and make it a little bit more fluid, which is why I like to use it this way and use the inkers. I don't really prefer to use, like I said, the markers. I haven't had real good luck with them. But again, everybody's choice, whatever works best for them. So we've got that. I'm just, like I said, I'm simply just coloring a little bit there. You could leave it like that. I personally don't like the look, but you could leave it like that. We could really color it in if you wanted to. We could do this and just really go crazy. But I think it takes way too long to sit here and color it in. Unless you want to make some really cool like designs and variegation, that would work really well. You could do that. But I think it's better, personally, just dipping it like I did last time. So that's one way you can use the alcohol ink with your alcohol markers. So I'm going to cut that little baby off so you can see the difference for that. And I had a fellow crafty friend that loves to use the markers, and I would guess mine is not super juicy. It probably needs to be really juicy, but she loves it that way. And you know what? I've seen people use just their markers or pens, whichever, and it looks phenomenal. Just for me, that's not my talent. I'm just not talented that way, unfortunately. So one other way you can color your own is, again, you need to make sure you have a protected work surface. And what I would do is just dribble a little bit on your protected work surface, like so. Just a little bit. That's even probably too much. So then what I would do is I would take the ribbon upside down and almost, I have it kind of pinched so it's kind of like at an angle, like kind of around it a little bit, and that's when I would just dip it like this. That would be what I would like to do. And this gives a beautiful look, but it does tend to use up a lot more ink this way. But boy, I think it's worth it. I think it looks great. It looks pretty neat. So that gives you this look, and you'll see how cool it is in just a second. Let me finish up here. Again, for me, I like beautiful, fast, and easy. In that order, of course, because you don't want to make it so fast that it doesn't come out nice, because what good does that do? Then you won't use it or like it. So here. Now what I would do is I would take this and almost shake it out a little bit, trying to get a little bit of those pieces out, like so. And you can see how it really soaked it in the middle, but not so much on the outside. And there's still a little bit of white showing. So you see how you could just, you saw there wasn't a lot of ink there. I even thought, like I had said, there's probably too much ink to give you the best variegated look. I might even just do another one to show you how little you need. But we can even spray this one. I'll show you what that looks like sprayed, because that'll be kind of neat. Again, if I can find my little sprayer. Here it is. Yay, we can do it. Okay, so now you know why my hands look the way too. Yeah, that's me. So we're just going to spray this a little bit. And then we're going to put that aside, because it really looks cool when you... I love the look of that. That'll look really neat. Well, and you can see how cool it looks here too. Then I'm going to take one more little piece of rose, and I'm going to put a little bit of alcohol down and a little bit of the alcohol ink, just to make it a little bit more fluid and almost in a line, if you will. Okay. Now, if you're going to use a paintbrush with these, if you choose to use a paintbrush with this, make sure you don't ever plan on using it, because more than likely it will never work for you the way you want it to again. So I'm adding a little bit of alcohol. That will change the dynamic of the color for sure, but I'm just going to barely dip it because I needed it a little bit wider. So I'm also opening this up a little bit, trying to make sure that we got the other parts. See that? Okay. And now I'm just going to gently just dip it like this. I'm just going to go like this with it. Okay? And that's it. So see, that barely needed any at all. And you can get some really beautiful looks like that. And even that is almost too much. So you could use a paintbrush for this, and just like I'm barely lightly doing it, and see how it just starts to spread. It's so cool. I just love the way this looks. It's really a neat look to me. So now what I would suggest is when you're drying it, you just make sure you set it aside. I'm going to try to do something different with this one. I'm going to actually, I think I'm going to spray it with a little bit of just alcohol and see if maybe that'll make this bleed a little bit, because I think it might look a little bit more natural, if you will. So we're just going to spray this baby up a little bit more. See how it's just starting, like the color is starting to run a little bit? That's actually what I'm looking for. So it just makes it a little bit, I don't want to say natural, because clearly this isn't really a natural look, but it colors in a little bit and still gives a little bit more variation. Variation, both words. But see, I just used my fingertip and just kind of flicked a little bit. And see how that works? And you still get some of the darker purple from when I colored it with a marker. And there you go. So there are the different ways you can use the alcohol. And it's a great time to color your fingers, because that's what you do when you work with alcohol ink. I also want to show you here, you can see where when I sprayed it, it got a little bit lighter in those areas. I love the way that looks. I think it looks really neat. Now this one here, you saw how dark it was before. Now you can see it's not as obvious, but you can see, I mean, it was super dark before, but you can see how it's gotten some light areas there. And the more you add, you're basically, imagine it being, when you're adding alcohol or blending solution to your creations, it's like adding white to a paint. So you're making the pigment less, so you're making it lighter. So when you do that, the more you put on there, the lighter it'll be. So I'm even going to spray this guy a little bit more. Almost obnoxiously, if you will. Just spray, 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 spray. And then in doing so, you're going to see almost right before your eyes how much lighter it is, except when I run out of alcohol. And I think I just did. Woohoo! I have some more, but I don't think we'll need it for this case. But you can see how, just as you're watching it, it's getting lighter. Isn't that neat? I really love this. And there's so many different things you can do with it. This, I don't think it would be a great idea for you to do with your children, this part. You could do it when you're using like the jar, like I had said before. You could have them make sure the lid's closed totally, and you can have them help you. That would work great. But if you're going to be doing something where you want them to help you totally, I would not suggest that letting them just do that, because you may have your entire house clean with purple. And I don't mean clean, I mean actually colored. But anyway, so I'm just using right now this little paper towel, and you see how it's kind of a mess and it's kind of ugh. This probably is not a very good example of the cleanup, but I do want to show you that it does clean up. This one actually, this mat is kind of porous, so it's been holding on to my ink, which is okay. I have another one, fortunately, and I'm okay with that. But I want to show you how it does actually clean up if you use alcohol. So I'm just taking the wet stuff right now and just kind of wiping it like that. You see it's kind of a mess. And then I'm going to take my little alcohol stuff right here. I'm just going to pour a little bit on and use that as a cleaner. And like I said, this mat is a little bit porous, so it's not cleaning as well as it normally would on a non-porous mat, but you can see how it does clean that stuff up pretty quick. I just gotta, there we go. Some of that stuff was already on there, some of that stuff soaked in, and that's okay. But that's why it's really important that you work on a surface that you know that is cleanable, or that you don't care about, or that you're gonna toss. Either way. So this can be cleaned up like so. Again, doesn't look very clean because, like I said, it turned out to be porous. But the good news is even though it is a work mat, it isn't as bad, and it did not soak through, so we're good. So you can see, like, you take these parts here and you just clean them off and just basically use the alcohol to clean it off. And like I said, you don't want to necessarily use the blending solution, because if you do that, you're going to be wasting a lot of money, where blending solution is relatively expensive, or more expensive than you can get some alcohol at the dollar store, say, or something like that. So anyway, so we have that, and we have this little variation and this little variation. And this is the one that I colored with a marker and added a little bit of the solution, and that's what we got. I like that, that's pretty. This one here is the one that we just dipped the tips in, and see the difference? How cool that is? And then this one here was the first one we dipped, and it was a lot more concentrated, as you can see. But see how the tips are light? I love the way that looks. I think that really came out neat. Well, I hope you enjoyed this creation today. I hope that it inspires you to get dirty. And I also hope it inspires you to just be creative. You can do it. Don't let your own mind limit you, and do not let someone say, oh, well, that doesn't look good, or I don't like this, or whatever. You know what? Just because I may like it or I don't like it doesn't mean that you don't. And that's one of the beauties about being creative, is that there's nothing wrong. There's no bad creation. There's no, bad thought, or sometimes I have tried things that were actually horrible mistakes that turned out to be beautiful projects, because you just make it happen, make it work for you. So I hope you enjoyed doing this today. I know I did. I can't wait to see how long. I'll have to let you know how long it takes for me to get my hands clean, because alcohol does work, but sometimes it soaks and it doesn't stay that well. And maybe that's the difference, because maybe the 70% doesn't clean as well as the 90%. I don't know. Maybe I'll do another experiment with that. But I hope you enjoyed this creation today. I hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride. And thank you so much for going on a creative journey with Melissa. Have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye-bye.